Hi, it's lovely to be here. My name is Cressida Pollock. I'm a mum of three, I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm a certified low tox coach. I'm also a holistic lifestyle coach, and I'm currently studying functional nutrition and aromatherapy. I'm the founder and CEO of a clean skincare brand called Stripey Horse Skin. I'd like to share some of my tips. My children range in age from 7 to 17, so I've been a parent for a little while now, and I'd like to share some tips about how to keep your kids healthy. It's really not that different from how to keep yourself healthy, but hopefully I can share some wisdom along the way. So hydration. I know that Katie's going to be talking about water filtration, so I'll leave that to her. But I just wanted to add that really, I find a huge difference if you add a really good quality sea salt to your drinking water, especially if you're using a reverse osmosis filter. We have one that has reverse osmosis and remineralizer, but I still like to add a really good quality sea salt just for minerals, especially for children. It's a little bit harder to get them to take a mineral supplement, especially as a liquid. They taste a little bit funky, but yes, so sea salt, just a little bit, tiny bit of it, tiny tip of a teaspoon. My kids do it to their water bottles. I don't even need to tell them now. It just makes them feel better. The water feels softer in your mouth. Give it a try. Nutrition. So of course what children eat is super important, but I've now, having parented for a very long time, realized that children go through phases and it's just best not to completely freak yourself out. I really like the method of looking at the whole week as a picture of what your children are eating. Don't focus on one meal or one day. You may well drive yourself absolutely insane, and nobody wants that. So I like to think, as their tastes change over time, I keep, much like Katie, I, put vegetables. I love one pot wonders as well, but I also like to healthify their favorites. And as the children get into their teenage years or even late teens, or I hate the phrase tweens, but we know what that means. So tweens, they really want to have rapport with their friends. And so sometimes I find that it is better just to allow them to eat what their friends are eating and not to sweat it too much and know that what they're getting at home is nutrient dense. Especially when you go to parties, please don't forbid your kids from eating the food there. And I only say this not with judgment, but just with absolute love and comprehension and understanding. Because I used to be the one that was like, oh my gosh, don't eat the cake and the lollies and there's so much junk and everything out of a packet. And my kids rebelled. It really, it didn't serve them and it didn't serve us as a family. So now we actually use it as a teaching lesson. So you go to the party, you eat the food that's there. I'll make sure they eat something healthy before they go. And when we come home with the party bag, I've even just surrendered to letting them have that. And what happens is afterwards we talk about how they feel. And so my best tip with nutrition, you as mamas, you know exactly what to be feeding your children. If you don't, you should get really, great advice. But also is just to talk about, our children always have favorite activities. So for me, my youngest one who's 7, he absolutely loves soccer. And so to play soccer, we talk about how food fuels you. And so for him, we talk about how he's going to be able to be faster on the field and how he's going to be able to build muscles to kick harder. And we talk about food as a fuel source and that it's not just something delicious, which of course it is, and food should be celebrated. And I think all of us here absolutely love to eat together, and eating as a family is also really important for your children as well. In terms of sensible supplementation, so something I do as a mum, and I think, I'm happy to let you know, but please make sure that it's right for you and your family. Humans are not actually able to make or store vitamin C. So often when at the moment in Sydney, it's cold and flu season, so we're supplementing with vitamin C. And then we're also, I love magnesium for children. I actually love magnesium for everybody because our nervous systems are always, right amped up. So vitamin C is quite easy to get into children, especially when they're sick or run down. Magnesium, really high in leafy greens. If your kid's eating enough leafy greens, tell me how you're doing it. But otherwise, I love magnesium baths. My children love to have magnesium baths and throw in essential oils and bubbles and all the things. And even though they don't bathe every day, once they get in the bath, you can't get them out. So they're soaking up all that goodness right in there. So the other thing that we love to do if people are getting when you get the very first onset of illness is to look at, I don't know if you've read about a vitamin D hammer. So it's taking a mega dose of vitamin D balanced with vitamin K. Please speak to your naturopath or integrative doctor about that. or nutritionist, but we've found that to be really helpful to shorten the duration of colds. Sometimes it'll even just knock it off right there. And of course, we use essential oils to assist with that as well. We'll come back to that later on. Movement. So movement's important for all of us. I've just recently, in the last couple of years, built up my 2 businesses, and I'm now mostly a desk working person. And I've got to be honest with you, I hate it. I really like to get up and move around, and it's not been great for my body. I've got a lot more aches and pains. Children are made to move. My poor little, I keep coming back to my 7-year-old, but he's really, what's the word? He's just very full of energy. And so for him, he often gets told to sit down in the classroom. And I can completely understand. It must drive his teachers mad, because if the kids are always bobbing up and down, it'd be a total nightmare. It would not annoy me as well. But we're not meant to just sit there for hours and hours and hours. It's not good for our body. It's not good for our brains. We just don't get enough oxygen pumping around our body. So movement for children is really important, especially outdoors. If you've got children that go to school, just have a look at how much Wi-Fi there are at schools. I'm sure you've heard about EMFs and the radiation with Wi-Fi and wireless devices. It is rampant. I was sitting outside an appointment with my daughter the other day, and I could not connect to my phone, but I had about 40 other things that came up that I could not, obviously I was not going to connect to some random person's Wi-Fi, but it just gives you an indication of how surrounded we are by these EMFs. So, do a little bit of research into that. But one of the best ways to really balance that is balance your screen with your green. So we're not a we're not off screen in our family at all. COVID really changed that for young people, I think. My son was in kindergarten when we were at home for a long time. He is all over a computer. He knows how to operate a laptop better than I do. Good luck to him, but he also needs to balance that with time away. So what I find when I pick them up from school is we really try and follow the Japanese, I love the term that they use, which is called forest bathing. So, and even in Japan, I don't read Japanese, but apparently what they ask their community to do is to go outside and spend time in the forest, which I know it's more bush here, and I live near the coast, so scrub, but to go outside in the forest, and it actually tells them to leave their phone at home. I mean, how brilliant is that? I know I am an absolute sucker for taking photographs for things, and to be honest, it's my job as well. I take a lot of pictures for social media, but what happens the moment you pick up your phone, you are distracted by whatever is on that screen. I mean, our children are so hungry for our knowledge, for our attention. We really just have to leave the phone away, or maybe put it on airplane mode where you can still take photographs, but those notifications won't pop up and take your attention away from your children. It takes a lot of discipline, no judgment. It's very hard to do. The other thing I love to do is when the children are a little bit fractious or really worked up is, we look at things that where there's more negative ions. So when there's a storm coming and you can feel that energy in the air, or walking along the beach if you're lucky enough to live near the coast like me, where the waves break on the sand. That is a fantastic area for children to walk. They're flooded with negative ions. There are particular air purifiers in your home that it can actually have negative ions in them. And again, essential oils are a really beautiful way of bringing the outside in. I love the way that Dr. Zach Bush talks about the fact that you breathe your biome. So if you can imagine, what have I got here? So frankincense. So frankincense is an essential oil that comes from Oman. And so what is bottled in here is the essence of what the trees have absorbed in Oman when the trees are tapped for their resin and then bottled and brought to my door. So if I'm trapped inside, or if I live in an apartment block, don't have plenty of fresh air. I mean, I diffuse oils anyway, but this is a brilliant way to bring the outside inside. And what I actually love is just thinking of the journey that my body is taking, and the changes, my internal biome changes of when I'm breathing in those beautiful oils that are grown in farms all around the world. Another thing is to try and pick an activity that they really like in terms of movement. A lot of structured activities for children, it's great, especially, if they love something in particular. But if your children are younger or you're struggling to get them outside, my tip is to make it a game. So when you're going outside, even my kids we will play I Spy. they're quite competitive with each other, so that always helps as well. So I spy or, find something that begins with the letter whatever, depending on how old your children are. Or, my beautiful friend Sarah taught me that, you can always play it with colours. So something that's green, something that's blue, which is easy for younger children. Another one is Nourishing Rest. Now, I have to say, again, no judgment. I am not very good at this. I tend to keep myself very, very busy. And the gaps in the day, I've noticed more and more, I'm just packing more stuff in. It's not healthy for us. We really need that time to decompress, especially around meal times, to try and take times, just try and sit and have our meals gently and restfully, and not just, as I found myself recently, shoving a sandwich in the car. So please, try and allow that time with those gaps in the day to have a bit of rest. Do you remember the car trips as a kid when you were bored? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I mean, they were the best, right? Do you remember, when your parents were busy and my parents had people over for lunch, and we come up with this incredible idea to create a cubby house inside the house. We got in trouble for making a mess, but oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And that's what I remember doing with my brother. I do not remember the times that we sat down and watched, I do, watching a movie with my parents, but allow your kids some time to be bored. It really allows, and yourself, it really allows you to come up with some really creative things, and just to give your brain space and time. Sleep. So who's a bit short on sleep at the moment? I sure am. If you have young children, this will be challenging. Do know that sleep comes back. It's not that my children don't sleep through the night. They absolutely do. But I have been going to bed too late. It's very hard to be disciplined about making sure you go to sleep at the right time. For children, obviously, we have some that have naps for a short period of time, and some that have, might still have multiple naps a day. My children are all at school, so none of them sleep during the day, though my teenage daughter manages to get one in on the weekend, and I'm a touch jealous because I can't nap. But interestingly enough, you'd be surprised to know that it is my 17-year-old who goes to bed before the boys. So she's 17, the boys are 11 and 7. Is it because she needs more sleep? No, it's not. Do you know why it is? It's because my boys still want me to put them to bed. They want me to come down while they're cleaning their teeth and read a book with them. And I've got to be honest, I get a little bit selfish because I want to go to sleep too. And so I want to clean the kitchen. I want to be finished all those things. So when I'm putting them to sleep, if I fall asleep in bed with them, it's okay by me. This is something I'm working on, but just, my tip to you is, allowing that space for sleep. One of the best ways, especially when your children are younger, is to cook dinner during the day if you at all can, or if you bulk cook on the weekend. Whatever you can do to try and eat dinner a little bit earlier. If ideally we'll still eat while the sun is still out, before the sun sets, because then we get those hormonal changes in our body. So we get the melatonin production increasing, that slows down our digestion. If we're still digesting food when we go to bed, number one, we don't digest it as well, but number two, it actually stops us from falling into a deep restful sleep. So trying to get your meals done earlier in the day. And the other one is really to have a bedtime routine as if they're babies. My kids, an ideal day for us is to come home from school, have a little snack in the car, have a proper dinner at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, clean up together as a family, and then do bath and bedtime. This is, of course, if there's no homework in there, but bath and bedtime, and then reading in bed, put the diffusers on, preferably some magnesium in the bath, and just let them download from their day. I find in the car when I pick them up, they're not ready to talk about it, but by the time the evening comes, they're really ready to just talk about the things that happen in their day, or express what annoyed them a lot, or what they liked. And sometimes, they're just really valuable moments. And so I just encourage you to try and make space for that. It's challenging. Don't sweat it. If, things run through cycles. Sometimes it goes better and sometimes it doesn't. I often find during summer, my children actually sleep better because we're naturally outside in the evening. We might have friends over more often. They'll be running around in the garden. We used to have a trampoline, so they would jump on the trampoline. It just was a much different way to approach the evening. The other thing that is super important, which I highly encourage you as adults to do as well, and obviously I'm not doing it right now because I'm here with a computer in front of me and everything, but to have a digital sunset. If you can, at least an hour before you go to bed, at the very least, put those Flux programs on your computer. Even better if you can actually not have your computer on at all or anything, an iPad. They say that the smaller it gets, the worse it is because you bring it closer to your face. So, you watch a TV further away than you look at a computer, and the phones are the worst because we put them right here near our face. So really trying to avoid those. That takes extreme discipline. I go in cycles with and without it, but if you can do that, a digital sunset, especially for our children, is absolutely magic. Emotional regulation. So who has yelled at their husband or snapped at their kids because something didn't go right at work, or you're feeling shitty because your period's late or whatever? I mean, it happens to all of us. So our kids rely on us to teach them how to regulate their emotions. Whose child has had a mega tantrum somewhere and you're thinking, what do I do? I don't know how to fix this. We can't fix it. What we have to do is teach them how to manage their feelings, and they will go through periods of time where they're better at it, and sometimes they will be terrible at it. That can depend on hormonal age, hormonal fluctuations, whether there's any big stressful changes in your life. We're currently living outside of the house while we renovate. That's super stressful. My daughter's in year 12. That's stressful for her, but also everybody else in the house. And my husband travels for work a lot, so it's often just me at home trying to manage the 3 children. Plus, my community tends to work at night time a fair bit, and so that becomes difficult as well. So just manage it to the best of your ability. I've got a few tips for helping with this. For younger children, what I really like is called the physiological sigh. My beautiful naturopath taught it to me. So it's about, you take 2 breaths in and a long, slow breath out. I'll just demonstrate. So the 2 breaths in are through the nose, and the long, slow breath is through the mouth. This actually affects our vagus nerve and retrains our nervous system. It teaches it that it is actually, we should go into rest and digest, that we're not being chased by a tiger, and we don't need to panic. Now, if your child is in the middle of a complete fit, they are absolutely not going to do it. So the best thing I can say to you is practice when they're fine. So practice during the day, practice before they have a sleep, practice in the car. And so then when you get to the moment that they're having that meltdown, you want to do at least 3 cycles of the in, out. So in the nose and out through the mouth. I found that it was best with my youngest one, who had a lot of more difficulty regulating his emotions, is that initially I would just sit next to him. It's no good when he was losing it to actually tell him to do it. I would just sit next to him doing it really loudly. So you can imagine I'm like some kind of lunatic there. But it works. Eventually he would join me and he would realize that he would feel better. But also what I noticed was that he just would be less explosive, and he actually would just sit next to me even if he was kind of still raging. So hang in there, that's a great one. And also explaining to them that it does reset their nervous system, because our children actually they don't understand when they've got all these feelings of rage inside them. It can be quite frightening for them. So I think recognizing that a tantrum is actually them needing help, not, which I've definitely done in the past, us needing to yell at them. Another one for slightly older children is EFT tapping. So the reason I love that, there's lots of free resources in YouTube. You don't need to be a professional. I've done a certification in it because I am obsessed with learning. But it is actually a really beautiful technique to teach children how to regulate their own feelings. You tap on acupressure points and you make statements. You can do it in your head or outside or out loud. It's a great one for kids to be able to do in the bathroom at school. I was lucky enough to have a year 2 teacher who was teaching them in their classroom, which made it not seem so wacky. I'm the weirdo mum, but it was being done in the classroom. It's beautiful. Again, it's something that you can work on with them when they're calm, when they're not. It's really a fantastic technique. I highly encourage you to look into it. For older children, I like that for younger children because they're actively involved in the feelings that they're having. Whereas for older children, and as a more longer term technique or process, I love just simple gratitude sharing, at any time. My friends will laugh, but I'm kind of like allergic to journaling. So I just like to do, like, I just throw them out there. But it works quite well with children. In the car, I'll just be like, hey, what are you happy about today? You don't have to make it a serious process. It's really just, sharing something lovely. And another thing we do is actually celebrate things where they failed, so that we've got a bit of a perfectionism problem in our house. So sometimes we talk about the fact that they did a really shit job at something, and that was just as okay as doing a really great job at something, because they learnt. Meditation, some children really love meditation. I find with children that are really high levels of anxiety, they don't love it in that moment, because sitting with their feelings is simply too overwhelming. But if you can start that with your child when they're very young, I used to teach yoga at preschools, and it is a beautiful thing to do. Keep it very short and simple. It's actually, you just want it to be very short and easy for them to achieve. You don't want them to actually feel like they're not able to do it. I've got some great resources if you want to reach out for that. Then I've said here, monitor intake forms, and you're thinking, what is that? Is that something I fill out? No, it's not. What I'm talking about is when you are all the things that you intake. So you consume water, you consume food, but you're also consuming what you see and hear and feel. So many a time I have been noticing that, especially the last couple of years, that's what's on the television, maybe what's on the news, is absolutely not appropriate for my children. It really came home to me when Donald Trump got into office, and my boy, who I can't remember what year it was, but he came home from school, I think he may have been in year 3, and he was like, we're all going to die because Donald Trump got in. And I was like, wow, okay, that's not really very balanced. So I have to think about what you're consuming here. And it was everything that was being spoken about in the press. Now, we know that's not true. Many of us didn't die. So we just need to think a little bit about what they're hearing. What's on in the car radio? I mean, the last couple of years, it's just been extraordinary, the things that they say. And I really encourage you just to maybe listen to a playlist or a podcast appropriate for children. Especially watch out when you're talking to your girlfriends on the phone. So guilty of this one. There's things that your children don't need to hear. Sometimes you're having a bit of a bitch and a moan about something. Totally fine, but maybe not for your kids to hear. Reducing toxins in your home. Pretty much everybody here will be on some level of a low tox lifestyle, and so you know a little bit about it. Just a really broad brush is look out for your personal care products, your cleaning products, anything that's got fragrance. Don't forget those smelly candles that you always get gifted at Christmas, any kind of air fresheners or non-stick pans, of course, as well as the foods that you can bring into your home. A great tip there is just take your shoes off at the front door, reduces the toxins in your home dramatically. And another one is open your windows and air it out as often as possible. But that is a whole call on its own, so I will move on. I've forgotten to move my slideshow over, so sorry about that. Let me just... There's just some little summaries of what I was saying. Anyway, we'll pop a copy of the slide in the system, so you can see that if you want to. So natural remedies. So I'm a massive fan of using natural remedies, and I've been doing it for a long time, so I feel very comfortable doing that first before I go and see a doctor. You will absolutely develop skills in this area where you feel super empowered in your home and you don't feel like you need to rush off at any little thing. I find my brother, which is really sweet, he's my older brother, called me the other day, wasn't quite sure what to do with his 15-year-old son who had a fever and a cold. So these are the things that you start to become more... You lean into it more, you trust your natural instincts, and you are able to not only assist your family, but your family and friends, because you cannot rush off to a doctor unless you're going to go to the emergency department in the middle of the night. And if, like Katie, you're traveling all around the world, that is completely impractical too. So to have these things that you can use at home that are your first aid kit at home, it's a really fantastic thing to do. I'm just going to grab, so for example, I've got oils just sitting here right where I work. So here, essential oils are teeny tiny molecules, and that allows them to cross the blood-brain barrier, and it influences the limbic system in the brain. Now, the limbic system is the part that's involved in our behavioral and our emotional responses. So just opening the bottle and sniffing it, it goes straight through our nostrils, and almost immediately, it says 3.2 seconds or something, actually changes our brain activity. I mean, is that not extraordinary or what? I mean, how many times have we smelt a beautiful rose and it hits you, or you've walked into the house, maybe you've gone to visit your mum and she's cooking a childhood favourite and you smell it, it takes you right back. So remember, that is how important our sense of smell is. Sorry, just taking an extra little sniff of my peppermint there to keep me through the next little bit. So essential oils have been shown through rigorous research to be all of them to some degree antibacterial, antifungal, and have antiviral properties. This means that we can use them to support our immune system and also to assist with symptoms when we're unwell. Now, we're not saying that these cure things, we're just saying that they can help you at home. So don't forget that things like essential oils come from a long history of natural medicines such as naturopathy, where you would use, I know that peppermint and licorice, for instance, is quite often used in herbal liquids to look after your gut. So if you just think that it's similar to that in a way that there is a long history of use, it's not new. What you want to do is make sure that you're picking the right oil company to use. If you buy one from a supermarket, you are unlikely to get fantastic benefits because the essential oils are not regulated. So you only have to have a very small percentage of actual essential oil in there, and it can be just filled with a carrier oil. And then you're really not going to get those benefits that are the same as having a very pure, very potent oils. Remember, they are potent. So just to talk through a couple, just going to highlight a couple. So we've got orange oil. I could have sworn I moved that frame over. Anyway, orange oil is traditionally used in aromatherapy. So this is the company that both Katie and I and a lot of you watching will choose to partner with or to trust is Young Living. And the reason that we love Young Living is that they've been around for a very long time. They're family owned, and they have they're real sticklers. So what they do is they actually either own the farms or they take a leasehold on a farm, and they control the whole process from the moment that the seed is put in the ground to the time that it is picked and bottled and distilled and bottled. So you can actually go and visit any farm. You just call them up and they'll allow you to do that. That doesn't happen very often. Often companies will actually buy from bulk farms, and you might get a bit from here and a bit from there, whereas with this company we know exactly where things are coming from. So orange oil is just a cracker. It is very easy to use. It is a very inexpensive oil. It's made from the rind of the oranges. It's traditionally used in aromatherapy, and the reason I can make these claims is that these particular oils are registered with the TGA as complementary therapy. So just know that this is it's a very expensive process to do that. It's quite lengthy. So there are a number of oils registered, but there's a peppermint oil in this bottle, but there's also one which we'll go on to have a look at, which is registered with the TGA. So, but it's the same oil in the bottle. So orange oil is traditionally used in aromatherapy to induce sleep, to promote refreshing sleep and healthy sleep patterns. It reduces the time to fall asleep. It aids in mind relaxation and increases body relaxation, and it can reduce the symptoms of mild anxiety. Anyone up for that? Yes, please. It also has been shown in scientific studies to reduce salivary cortisol in children. So they actually had children in the dentist chair and they measured their salivary cortisol before and after diffusing orange and lavender oil, and their salivary cortisol reduced. And the conclusion that we're making from that is that it actually reduced their stress levels, their internal stress levels, which is just beautiful. I personally like the dentist, but I know many people don't. But if you can imagine it does it in that situation, imagine what it just does in your car on a Friday afternoon when you're coming home from school, or if you've had a big day out, maybe like a big family picnic and you're trying to get your young one to sleep. Then we've got Thieves. So orange oil is something you would just use to support your sleep. So there are many oils that we use for that. So if you think lavender, frankincense, we've spoken about orange oil, ylang ylang, Roman chamomile. These are all traditionally calming, soothing oils. There's also one of my favorites is called Peace and Calming. It's a Young Living blend. It is especially designed to help you get to sleep. There are many more in the within the company, but this is just an idea of what these oils can do. So if you are already sick, or you are in the thick of cold and flu season, I love talking about this one because my mother-in-law actually was a school teacher for many, many decades, and she started to use these oils a few years ago, and her comment was that once she started to use them at school, she and the children did not get sick as often. So Thieves oil is a proprietary blend by Young Living. Its roots come from the robbers during the Black Plague. So what happened, the legend says that the robbers were stealing from those that were dead and dying. And when they were caught by the police, the magistrate agreed to let them go if they revealed how they were able to stay healthy when they were in such close contact with the bubonic plague. So this blend was revealed, and this was the one that the blender from Young Living, he discovered this information, was passionate about bringing it to the people. It is the most copied blend in the world. It's in Young Living. It comes in the oil form, which we love to diffuse all throughout the house during this particular time of year. It's one of their TGA approved immune support supplements. It's in a throat spray. It is in their cleaning products. It is the mainstay of their range, and it smells like, some people say chai. I don't think that. I love chai, but I don't think it smells like chai. It's kind of hot cross bunny. It's fresh. It's delicious. It's got cinnamon. It's delicious. But if it's going to help people stay healthy during the bubonic plague, pretty good to diffuse around your house. Okay, so your child has come home from school, or they've come home from daycare. It happens all the time, and they're actually sick. What do you do? So I'm talking about respiratory things here, and this is purely me sharing what I would do in my house. So please make sure that it's appropriate for you. But I think airway support. So think about the age of your child. We love doing things like the old-fashioned steam bowl. My mum used to make me do that when I was a child. Don't forget to wear goggles or sunglasses. I should change that screen again, sorry. So some oils to think about. So RC is another Young Living blend, which is really fantastic. It is designed for what they suggest is respiratory care. And so it's got eucalyptus and all these things in it. You smell it and it just opens up your airways. So great if you're feeling unwell. Cedarwood is beautiful for for airway support. Also helps you sleep. Lemon and orange, they're high in D-limonene, they're anti-inflammatory and also antioxidant. Frankincense is fantastic for inflammation, also beautiful for your skin. Botox in a bottle, they call it. Tea tree you could use in various ways. So the ways that we would use that is, making like a chest rub. We'll talk about that a little bit later. A chest rub, steam inhaling over the bowl. You can put a few drops in the shower. I had my 7-year-old was croupy when he was younger, and so we would do that. We would just have the hot water with peppermint in there. Just make sure that's appropriate for your child. Some children with asthma, you need to be careful what oils you use, but you can definitely get guidance from someone in our community. We've also got a lot of naturopaths nutritionists, you name it, they're in this crew. So reach out if that's something that you struggle with. We love to help people. There's nothing more empowering than a mother helping another mother with their child, right? That's what community is all about. They say it takes a family to raise your children, and we're a family. Ask anyone in here, anyone who's involved with these products and with each other. We just love to help each other out. So a chest rub, steam inhaling in the shower. You can also make throat soothing gummies. So I make them extremely, use a lot of gelatin. I know Katie's talking about gummies later, but I like to make it really hard. I make it with honey and lemon. And depending on the age of the child, you can use Thieves in there. If it's really firm, it can be slow to, to dissolve, and then that helps support helps your child or you. So peppermint oil is, here we can see it's traditionally used in aromatherapy to reduce body temperature. So where you like to do a swipe down the spine if they've got a fever, it can decrease headache symptoms and even reduce, it's not written here, but help with mild migraines. It relieves nausea as a cough suppressant and to relieve coughs. This is just an indication of the things that we're actually, these are registered with the TGA, so we can say that this is actually what it does. So yeah. Then we move on to my favorite natural remedy. It's a cough syrup. It is super safe, very easy to make. Just take a lemon, take the peel off, thinly slice half of it and put it in a bowl. Then put the rest in your fridge. Cover the onion in the bowl with a couple of tablespoons of raw honey, the best quality honey you can find. Put a plate on top, make sure there's no ants around, and leave it on the bench overnight. You will find in the morning there's a lot of liquid in there. It's like onion honey. So in the morning you pour off that liquid and put it in a clean glass jar and pop it in the fridge. And so you would use that, adults or children can use it. Obviously, if your child is under 1, they don't advise giving honey, so get advice. So if you give your child a teaspoon, it acts as a mucolytic, but it also helps to soothe the dry cough as well. We've found that it helps to reduce the amount of time that a cold lasts for. There's plenty of studies on this. If you want the study, I'm a science nerd, so if you want the study, reach out, I'll send it to you. And you can keep that in the fridge for quite a long time, as long as you always are very vigilant about being clean, using clean teaspoons. Children like it. It does have a slight onion flavor, but predominantly it's honey. And so they're pretty happy to have that. I've never had a problem giving it to my children. Then, of course, we can make a natural chest rub. So I love to use a mix of shea butter and coconut oil because I like the texture. It's very easy to work with. So you just soften it over a bain-marie and then add the oils that you choose. This will depend on the age of your child and obviously their particular health implications. It's best to reach out to a person close to you to ask about this. I don't want to, I can't generalize really. So peppermint is great for adults or older children. I would avoid it for younger children. Lavender is always pretty much super safe. Eucalyptus as well, but also just being mindful about how strong you make it. For me, I like things like a chest rub or whatever to kind of smack me in the face. But you might like to just tone it down for your children because they may not like that. So you can use that on your chest or neck area when they've got a cold. It helps with coughs and congestion. It's great before they go to sleep because it'll help open their airways and help them get better sleep. And remembering that if you've got a baby in a cot, you're not going to be using this because unless they're sort of older, but you can also raise the head of the cot by putting some books underneath. But yeah, definitely reach out to someone for some more support around that. I'm going to leave you here and leave you back with Katie. Thanks so much. Look forward to hearing what your take-homes were from this.